and welcome to today's webcast. It's a really happy day for me. I have very special people here, and they're going to talk to us and tell us about how to be the designer that the world wants. Along with me, I have in the studio Vikas Satwalekar. Vikas is a very dear friend, a communication designer, and has also been the director of NID for 11 years. Satish Gokhale.
Hi.
Satish is one of the most celebrated product designers, and the last I heard, he had 49 patents.
59.
Oh, I'm sorry. 59 patents in product design. That's amazing, and we're really lucky to have you here, Satish, to hear from you. And Claudio. Claudio is an architect designer, an interaction designer, and an academician. Claudio is currently the head of academics at Pearl Academy, and so I welcome all of you. For those of you who have come in, you can ask questions by leaving your comments in the comment box, and we'll ask the questions to the panel. Again, the theme of today is how to be the designer that the world wants. I'm going to be asking the questions, and you can pass it on to the next person, or we can all talk together. One of the things that young people think about today is that is design a real career? I mean, can you make money, get jobs, or is it something which is just a soft profession if you don't get admission into other areas? Maybe Satish, I can see you're smiling. You can take that.
No, I think design as a profession now is really stable in India. There was a time obviously nobody wanted design, or as a designer it was a big struggle, but I think that things have changed now. Industry has realized the importance of design. And design, I think you can do a lot of different stuff now. That's important now.
You know, when NID started with our first graduate program in 70, there were 30 students who applied. None of them knew what design was, but they were all adventurers with a passion to do something. They all ended up with a design profession, but as entrepreneurs because no industry was there to take them. Today, as you said, things are different.
Correct.
And I think that is what has happened from 1970 to today. And it's something terrifically positive.
Claudio, do you want to add an international perspective? So you've been in India now for 2 years. So do you see the opportunities in the design or design industry?
You were mentioning that you were telling that I have a background in architecture and design. So I think that there is a common ground in design, that is the ability of understanding how to transform an idea into some kind of form, and whether this is into a real product or a communication or an item for the fashion piece. So when I speak about design, it's a very broad term. And I think that I like also the approach that is looking not too much to this vertical specializations at the starting point. So especially for the UG, what you're looking at is to bring this kind of culture of what design is in general, and then to slowly go into a much more detailed and specialization. So I think that approach gives a lot of flexibility also in the market, in the sense that if you have a good basic and an understanding of what design means and what is the attitude approach to work it, then it's very easy later on to specialize and to go into specific fields.
But coming from what Vikas said, I mean, you talked about the first batch.
Yeah.
I joined NID not knowing what design is
Yes.
in 80s.
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
So we are all confused.
It was very interesting. I just knew design had something to do with doing it with your own hands. And I think I loved it and just got in.
So Satish, what if you hadn't studied design? There are many people who are designers without a design education. What in a design education, does a design education prepare you to be a designer?
Interesting.
I think very important what our institute taught us. Let's say I'm from NID. They taught us how to think differently. NID also taught us to be open. NID also taught us to act as a catalyst with other team members. I think NID taught us to be team members and work as a team. I think that was very important, and designers have to work as a team. You can't work in isolation anymore.
As a
And
team with other designers
other
or
other professions. It could be
Super.
a
Yeah.
sociologist, it could be an engineer, a chemical engineer, or an electronics person. So, designer has a very important role to play as a catalyst, and you can actually drive the whole product.
Think of
Being
it
a
as
catalyst.
think of it as a conductor in a symphony orchestra.
Yeah.
You have so many different instruments.
But can you conduct without going to a design school, or is it better to?
It's better because I think it's very important to have that foundation as to what is design. I think that education the design institutes give. I think that's very important. I think.
So you talked about working with people. Can you tell us that what do you have as a setup? Is sometimes I don't know, design houses are 2 people setups or 13 people. What
So,
does
Over
a
the last
designer-
30 years, what we've done is we've got our own team, which have got designers, engineers, program managers.
You hire engineers and
also.
okay.
Also. But over a period, we have actually built in associates. So we get the right brain on the project required. So instead of hiring and building a big company, we get the people on job as and when required. Otherwise, if I don't give the right job to the right person every day, he's going to leave. And he'll be unproductive also. So, and that's the way we work today. We've got a good set of associates now.
And how
who
many
come on the
associates
project.
do you
We've
work
got over now 12 or 15 associates. So the best brains in electronics, the best brains in mechanical engineering, for example, polymers. So that is our business model, how we work. So it works better.
Vikas, since you worked in the area of communication design, and did you study design also?
Yes, very much so. I mean, design and communication.
No,
Yes, I
did you
did.
study?
I did. But you know what I did? And I think that's something which is very wonderful about what Pearl is trying to do. I did literature before I came to design. But it was knowing that I wanted to do design that I first went to literature. Because I thought that maybe it's important to understand the human mind a little better, to go into the mind of writers. And I was very lucky. I went to college, I did my degree, then I came to the National Institute as a student, and then did my whole program of design and went off to other places.
Claudio, we heard Satish talking about what is design and the design approach or design attitude. What do you have in your curriculum, or do you have anything in your curriculum that addresses this? How do you address that?
Okay, that's a very, very large question. The curriculum, meaning what you are doing.
That's
now
right, at Pearl. Yes.
Now, yes, sure. I think that, first of all, we have gone in the last year into a certain kind of revision and update of the curriculum, because it's very important to be able to cope with what is going on around us. And what we need is flexibility. So be able again to incorporate what is happening in the industry, in the curriculum itself, while it's going. So a too much rigid curriculum doesn't work very well. And so we are bringing this more modularity approach so that we can incorporate these inputs. Then as any, probably, especially the UG curriculum, the idea is to make a path that is progressive. So the first year is mostly getting students aware about what design is, but through the hands, experimenting, experiencing. So it's not really in a theoretical way, but more like getting a sense of what design is through exposure to, again, the different aspects of design in general. Then the first year is mostly getting into the fundamentals of specific discipline. So if the students have chosen communication, there are some basic aspects around communication to be learned. So layout, color, typography, for instance. The third year is mostly, as soon as the students have got a little bit of sense of independence in their work, or also position, is like throwing them in the real context, and so it's mostly a year of exposure. Exposure means also playing a little bit with the boundaries, with the comfort zone. In the sense they think that maybe they have got some basic understanding, but it's important then to cope it and to work with others and to test it. So there are 3 different ways of exposing. One is some activities, mostly project-based, in which we are asking students to work in a cross-disciplinary group, so not necessarily inside their classes with their own discipline, but also combining, for instance, interior designers with communication designers, maybe with interaction design in a global project. So that's a type of exposure in which you are not working anymore in isolation in your own domain, but you have to, like we were saying before, being able to play your role within a different perspectives. Second aspect is important to work in collaboration with the industry. So this kind of cross-disciplinary activity, the aim and what we are working on is to have some briefs that are coming from the industry. So working in collaboration with them. So it's more like simulating a studio activity, like any design studio does, and also compensating maybe the competencies that are not there with the support of external professional and of the industry itself. Third element is, again, we are thinking that in a global world we have to be exposed to international perspective. This is a very big debate because when we are speaking about this, there is some kind of resistance of thinking, okay, we are speaking about globalization in terms of everybody having the same global mindset, and this is not what we are looking at. So we are looking at whenever is the approach of the students, whether this is very local or very global, the importance of looking through other lenses to be able to get and to discover what in other places things happen, how they work, is very important, very formative. So our way of looking at it is like to provide this international exposure as a way of opening a bit the mind. Again, that is all what is happening in the third year. And the fourth year is that bringing the things together. At that point, students would have a different way of testing his own abilities. Again, one other aspect is that we don't think that if you're doing a 4-year pathway, then everybody goes out like the same. But again, this path is also looking to how much a person is different from the other. What are the talents that they can develop and apply? So with an understanding of industry, understanding of what is required from the market, and then applying to a final project. So that is a very progressive pathway that has, again, these three dimensions: industry exposure, cross-disciplinary activity, international exposure.
So maybe let me take it from there. The questions have started coming in, but I have, or you want to add something?
One small
please,
point
please.
which I wanted to, I think he's talked about the holistic approach. I still think you have to talk about the student.
Okay.
And to me it seems that everyone today is banding around with the word creativity.
Yeah.
But every person on the road is creative. The question is, what is the bandwidth of creativity? And I think, what does an institution, a design institution, do? A design institution helps a student understand his level of bandwidth and be able to operate within
Correct.
that level
Correct.
to
Very
the
well
best
said.
of his or her ability. That is what I call design education with a capital E, not design training. And I think I make the differentiation here because creativity is linked up with passion, with adaptability, and most important, with the attitudinal mind. How do you change attitudes in mind?
So can I ask you a question?
Well, yeah.
Because I loved what you said. But my question is that if creativity has to do with attitudes, it has to do with passions, is that bandwidth fixed? Or can it be?
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's
that's my
in
question.
my view. Again, that's something you start within those 5 years or 4 years when you're there. You have, let's say, an X bandwidth, but that bandwidth has been given to you, or you understood it, that this is my area of excellence at that particular moment of time. But when I go out and interact with industry, my bandwidth will obviously increase because I will be constantly absorbing. If I have passion for some learning, I will absorb. The moment I absorb, the bandwidth becomes wider. And I think that is what learning is all about. And in a sense, really, we are all learners all our life. So therefore, there is. I don't think there
Yeah.
is.
Absolutely.
Super.
So therefore,
Super. Yeah, because I believe that based on the context, based on the environment, and based on the person's mindset and approach, one can really find areas where you can stretch yourself or stretch that bandwidth.
So it's
to-
elastic.
Yeah, super,
It's elastic.
super.
And you can actually limit or break away from there. Depends on each individual then.
and
How much you want to learn.
the question is, once you ask me to talk,
Mami, please, please,
one
please,
little, because in an educational institute, if you're talking of international, you must also talk about evaluation. How does evaluation help a student grow? And I think the important thing in evaluation is not checking somebody against somebody else, but against what you were 6 months ago
Yeah,
and what you are today.
that's correct.
That, I think, is learning. So please
Super.
keep us.
Absolutely. Just there's a question that has come in, so I'm just going to take that. Like Claudio said, Pearl is offering a pathway of 4-year diplomas for all its design fields. The business and media courses are 3 years, but all the design courses are 4-year, the 1-year foundation, and then the 3 years after that. At the end of 4 years, the student gets a professional diploma and is ready to go out into the industry. Side by side, students who want to study further, or we encourage all students to do an IGNOU distance learning degree along with us. In the list of subjects are available on the website, and this makes you eligible to study further in
That's
India
right.
also. Okay, here's a question, and I think the question is for you. It's Sakshi Wankade says, Pearl Academy is fashion dominated. I can also help in that answer. Does it provide the same exploration and scope for communication design?
Yes, sure. Now, I think that this was the observation that I had when I came here. So I realized that Pearl is very well known all around India, mostly connected to fashion. There are very different reasons, obviously, because again,
History.
it's a long history and a long pathway and so on. But I think that even like we are speaking about a different set of teachers, their philosophy, the approach is the same. So communication or product design, so they have all very, very, very focused teams and very focused perspectives. And again, the element that we are working on in terms of the curriculum is very homogeneous in terms of the way which are approaching the experience of the students. So there is no like comparison in terms of the specificity of the discipline, but it's comparison in terms of approach. So there is one Pearl that is working in an holistic manner, and then that is leveraging then the different expertise. So I would not be worried about whether a communication program within an institution is very well renowned for fashion, because there is a very specificity in all the specific fields. There are also, in some cases, some domains that are emergent, so in which the programs are newer. And sometimes, again, I know that people are saying, okay, if it's a curriculum there for 20 years, maybe there is certain stability.
Oh.
But on the other side, when we are designing a new curriculum, like for instance, we have reviewed the communication one in the last couple of years, normally the new curriculum leverage the experience that we have developed in the previous one.
Yeah.
So the new curriculum always, so to say, more open, more ready, more contemporary. And so we are putting a lot of energy in that. So I would generally say that communication design is a very good choice in case,
Yeah.
mostly like
Okay.
that.
Here's a question from Kavita. Maybe Satish, you can take that. It says, she says, how important is industry exposure during a design course? Or is it important?
Okay, I think it's extremely important. The reason is you study in an institute, but what you study in industry is real life experiences. The time really crunches. And it's so important. I mean, a program or a project what you're doing for 3 months, you're expected to do that in 10 days in the industry, and that's real world. So I think at an early stage, let's say in the 3rd year, exposing to the industry is extremely critical and important. Extremely important, I would say. I would encourage people to do more industry trainings, in fact.
So when you say industry training, you mean like internships or visits?
Internship. Even visits do help. Because visits actually open, your whole perspective changes, saying that, oh, it can be done this way, you know, that kind of thing. The smell, the touch and feel of materials is important.
Sure.
The heat, the environment.
If I can add, because I don't want to, maybe what I said before is misunderstood, because I was saying that in the third year there is a particular emphasis on that, but doesn't mean that we are not looking to have a certain
So
expression from
what
the
kind
very
of
beginning.
what kind of industry exposure do you give
No,
students?
there is different ways, but indeed also in the first year we have done projects with the industry also in the first year. It's obvious that the kind of activity they are doing in the first or the second year is not the same that you can do when students is more mature or more has developed more competencies. But we are often like hosting, visiting faculty, professionals that are coming to present the case studies. We are inviting them for some critiques when there is to be presented a work. And again, as I was saying, especially in the third and sometimes in the second year, we are also developing this conjunct project with the industry. So it's a continuous collaboration that is scaled up, also in relation to what is the competence the students are developing, their ability also to understand. And again, for the third year on, they develop mostly a better maturity. But we are very eager also to integrate the aspect in the first and the second year.
You want to say
No,
something?
I believe that, you know, industry training breaks your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's a major learning. You can't swim, you're thrown in the sea, and you're to survive. I think that training is what industry training actually does. And it's very important.
So there's a question here directly related to that. It's Himanshu Jain who says, is internship given by the college? The answer is yes, Himanshu. All students in their third year go out for an industry internship, which is arranged by the college. Some students work on a project and they find it themselves also, but all students get this industry exposure or experience. There's a question here from Kumar. It says, sir, so that means it's not for me. It says, sir, I have admission in engineering, but I want to do design. Can you advise me about the future?
Which part of the country does he come from?
I don't.
I think essentially, I think we should, Satish and I could give our email addresses. Maybe they would. That's the
No, I
only thing
think-
we can do. Probably can't do it on.
Engineering and design goes hand in hand. It's very important, I think. You know, but the kind of products he would get into is very different. You know, instead of lifestyle kind of products, he might get into medical products or capital equipment or hardcore where basic fundamentals of engineering can be utilized. So I will always recommend he should do design without forgetting the principles of engineering.
Please just talk about that engineering, the medical equipment you did, because I think in a sense that highlights what you're talking about.
So I think being an engineer, a lot of times your vision is narrowed down. Whereas, yeah, it does.
Really?
You know, because you think only that it can be done only in one way. Whereas a design helps you to think in a very radical different way. Most of our projects, we actually question basic engineering principles. Can't it be done in other way? So a lot of work is happening in disruptive innovation. We just worked on a project where, you know, it's a breast scanner and something which requires mammography and is very expensive. That's why women don't go, because of the pain and the humility also. It costs 150 rupees and it just takes 4 minutes today.
Wow.
So that's something which changes. I mean, there are several examples. We question prior art. I think we question engineers saying that why is it done this way? Oh, because somebody else has done it. So we always try and think different, and design helps you to think differently, I think. Very important.
Super. Here's a question from Kavya Bege. She says, how instrumental is Pearl Academy, and how does Pearl Academy provide the designers that the world wants? Who's going to do that?
Somebody from Pearl.
Somebody, everyone is behind. Who's that?
Claudio? So maybe can I start first?
Absolutely.
Give you a little bit of time to think. So Kavya, I think one of the things that we've been discussing is that one needs to also understand that the designer or the student who comes in, say in 2017, is going to go out and be a designer in 2021. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of research, a lot of industry integration, and actually understanding what the trends are going to be and what are the skills that the student needs to have in 2021, because everything is changing all the time. Technology is changing all the time. The products that we use is changing all the time. What we have, your artificial intelligence, your virtual reality, everything is changing all the time. So it's not, in my opinion, the pure skill. It's also the ability to learn, the ability to identify what is the right information, where can one learn more, and to continuously be able to learn, understand the customer, empathize with the customer, and learn and apply what it is, because everything is changing. So the attempt really at Pearl Academy is always to be in touch with what is happening out there today and through our industry partners in the future, so that our students are equipped to be continuous learners in the area of design. But Claudio is going to give you the real answer.
I'm laughing because I was struggling to finding a simple answer, but I think that you told very well. So
Oh, sorry, there's a message here, Claudio, for you.
for me, personal message.
Yeah. So Ranjana Saktwalekar is saying Claudio can barely be heard. Can we? So Ranjana had to. So you have to talk a little louder.
Okay, I can speak loudly.
Yes.
But I hope that the microphone is working. Sorry, I have a little bit a low voice. No, I was thinking that summarizing what Nandita has told, I think very clearly, that is this ability of learning to learn.
Yeah.
I think that is typically of any creative industry, the fact that you are asked in the different steps, also in the career, to tackle or to be confronted with new problems, with aspects that you didn't know before. That is typical of a design career. So that's what we are looking after very clearly. Also summarizing other aspects that we were speaking about. On one side, there is understanding yourself, so understanding what is the creative part, but also what is the technical part that you are able to manage. The second layer is not only enough to understand, to be exposed to that creativity, but also to apply a systematic approach, to understand, to control, and to manage it. And third, as we were saying before, to be open to understand the system, the area in which we will apply, because again, we were speaking about communication is a very open, very broad word, but at the end, which are the stakeholders, which are the typical modality of work, what is the difference, what is the market looking at? So understanding what is the system in which communication is entering, is working, is very important. So we are playing on these three different mechanisms. So making people aware about their ability, providing a structural approach in order to be able to manage and to control and to work around that ability, and understanding what is the system in which you will then work in the future.
So it's flexible also.
Can I just add something?
Yes, please.
I think there is another aspect which I think we've not touched upon, which is learning from each other. I think there's a great deal of learning between students and students.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully also between students of one discipline to students of another discipline.
Yeah.
Because this concept of cross-ventilation, what Gandhiji talks about, let my doors and windows be open so that I can, need not be swept away by the idea, but I think essentially be influenced, looked at is important, and I believe there can be projects which can work towards that thing. One of the things which was idealistic, and it happened for about 15-20 years at NID, was that they would take a project where 60-70 students from different disciplines would work on that project.
Correct.
For a client. And actually, if the project was to be setting up an exhibition in Delhi, all 70 of them would be in
be a
Delhi.
part of
Yeah, we all were part of that.
Exactly. Now, I think
there was a lot
that
of
is learning with a difference. Because you are learning the bandwidth which I talked about. You are already making it broader within
Correct.
an educational institution. And I think maybe Pearl should look at that. And you mentioned
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yes.
And I think that is
Yeah.
a fantastic idea.
So I think
And
that
it helps to cross-pollinate.
Yes.
I think it's
absolutely.
very important.
So, Claudio's smiling, but in the curriculum that we have right now at Pearl, it's modular, and you can always jump in if I'm not saying it right. And there are 1/3 of the modules which are similar across all the courses. So, if there is a module in social design, students from product design and students from communication design
That's
and
good.
students from interior and spatial design are all studying that. So that is really the space where the industry comes in with a project, and we can have students from all different
Most
courses
ideal, yeah.
coming in there, working together and learning from each other. Did I say it right?
Yes, absolutely.
I want to say one more thing, sorry, since I have the main mic. This actually made me think, this is to Kavya's question, that what is Pearl doing? And it reminded me of where we were earlier on, in a room with 300 of our faculty. And the question that I asked there is that, how many of you have been through some learning or are engaged in some learning or some course over the last year? And I think more than 95% of the
Yeah.
people in the room stood up. So truly, if as an organization, as a college, if the emphasis is that faculty also have to continue to be lifelong learners. Faculty have to also continue to do internships with the industry, have to continue to learn. This is another way I think that the learning to learn or learning skills flow in there. Okay. Sorry, there are many questions. This one maybe Vikas you can take. It says, sir, what is the difference between a 1-year course at say Arena and Mac or a 4-year course in design at Pearl or at anywhere?
I do not know what the course is at that 1-year course which they are talking about, but I can talk conceptually.
Okay.
I think a shorter program is basically to fine tune
Skills.
your skills. A longer duration program is to fine tune your mind.
Very
And I
well.
think that is really what it is. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Super.
That's absolutely correct.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Geetika Jain is asking, is it compulsory to enter an entrance exam? So Geetika, yes, the answer is yes. It is compulsory to go through the admission process as there is on the website. All the 4-year and 2-year courses have an entrance exam and an interview, but check the website depending on the course it is that you're interested in. There's another question which says, what is the difference between, maybe you can take that, it's Aradhya Singh, fashion media communication and communication design?
Okay, but then we are getting too much into the detail. But in a broader sense, communication design is looking to all the different range of application of communication, and with a focus on, for instance, the advertising industry or publishing industry or any kind of industry that, so to say, is leveraging the skills of a communication design. Fashion media communication, as the title says, is an emphasis on fashion. So while the communication design is a broader perspective that is looking to any kind of context to be applied, in the fashion communication is focused specifically on fashion. And the media aspect is also the one that is thinking about how you communicate fashion through a media being mass media like television or like new media like a web and so on. So it's a different kind of perspective. One is a little more specialistic in the mindset, and the other is more broad. So you can clearly understand the difference and depending also on what you're looking for. So if you're looking to so to say a curriculum that makes you ready to work in different fields, in different contexts, then communication design is again the one that is common for that. If you are very interested in the specific fashion industry,
True.
and then so that to apply and to understand how to apply communication to that specific field, then fashion communication is the right choice.
Okay. There's a question from Gaurav Singh. He says, can you tell me the difference between interior and spatial design and architecture? Do you want to take that again? Sorry.
That is again architecture. The question speaks about architecture.
Architecture, yeah.
Okay. Okay, like how to do this very simple. Okay. That's a big question because I have an architectural
There's a
background.
very thin line between all of
Yeah.
it now. It's a very thin line.
Except I
No, it's
think
more- it's more
in
in
architecture,
architecture,
architecture is much more technical,
Yeah.
and they learn a lot
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
with hard materials. Whereas in
Then in the-
interior and spatial design, one learns to work with
But
the
it is a-
spaces.
But the architect also has to create the spaces for them.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
There's one concept which is creation of spaces
yeah,
for a
but,
specific
but
purpose.
is the scale.
Yeah.
right?
It's the scale.
Mean,
Scale, okay.
I think that is a matter of scale. So if you're an architect or study for architecture, among the different things that you can do, you can also learn to design interior spaces, but mostly you're learning how to make a building, big building, a large building, a small building, so with all the technical component in order to make it. And so not only the design aspect, but also the technical, how the structure is working and so on. So it's a little bit like if you are comparing the product design to a more engineering
Correct.
perspective.
You're handling
so you have to have that.
spaces.
In the interior design, there is an architectural component because whenever you are designing the layout, you have to understand how a wall stands, where maybe the equipment has to be fixed or passed, but not with the same level of complexity of an architecture. And then you are not studying how to design a skyscraper, for example.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay. So Himanshu Sagar has a question. It's quite an interesting question. He says, how important is it to be in a metro city while studying design? So Himanshu, I think the way that I'm receiving that question, and then I'll pass it on, because I think that is the way I'm receiving it really is, for me, being, I don't know what the word metro city, but being in an environment where one has access to the industry, which could be in Pune, where one has access to exhibitions, where one has access to conferences, things that are
Design
going on.
studios.
Also maybe like a more cosmopolitan city with the industry nearby is an advantage. All design is not in metro cities. There's a lot of design in Delhi, in Bombay, in Bangalore, but a lot of design in Pune. There's a lot of design in Ahmedabad also.
My God, Pune
Yeah.
would feel very upset.
I'm saying Pune.
if it
Yeah.
is not a metropolitan city.
Meaning that it's one
It's
doesn't
a
have
design
it's a
capital now.
design, So being where designers are, I think that possibly has an impact. But let me hand that over to you all.
You know, my only reaction to that would be probably we have not still developed a program to teach design in places other than major cities. I think it's a very specialized program. I think we have not given it a serious thought. That's my immediate reaction. I don't know that, but that there is a need for it, I think
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
should be
I think
done.
that there are colleges which are not in some of these design hubs. The struggle sometimes is where do you find a teacher? Where do you find good design
Yeah.
teachers
Correct,
who are
correct.
open to staying in
But-
Vijayawada or
But you know, this is what the NID is.
This is
The
what NID
government
did
is
in
wanting
an-
to do.
Okay.
For example, Vijayawada is one. I think Kurukshetra is another. Indore or something somewhere is a third. They're trying to do something, but
Northeast also.
there is always a problem and shortage of faculty.
of good faculty, because
It
faculty
all
So
depends
therefore-
also on the individual. I mean, if you're not in a metro, you can still be in touch with what is happening.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
with today's day and age, with information technology, I think that's not a problem at all.
Okay, super. So here's a question from Geetika Kumar. It says that if we're going to work in India, is there any benefit of international exposure? I won't give that to you because you may be biased, but is there any benefit of exposure to international concepts, international faculty, international transfers, if at the end of the day we're going to work in India, as she says?
India is a pretty large country, isn't it?
Very diverse.
It's, you know, it can be as complex as
Yeah.
New York, or it
Yeah.
can be
Absolutely.
like a small village in,
Yeah.
you know, somewhere else.
The likes and dislikes
So
change
therefore
between
the-
north and south.
I think that, again, my concept of bandwidth is so important. Of course, I think there is no doubt in my mind that all these influences which should come in are extremely important.
Do you think it helps to have international exposure? What is
I
the
think-
difference it would make to a student's life?
Okay, I'm bringing my experience. Okay, since I'm a foreigner and coming here, I don't have that cultural understanding of Indian culture, for instance. So I'm pretty much on the surface of the understanding. And so what I always stimulate in students, also my colleagues, is can you focus and explain me or give me some visibility or access to what is your knowledge that is so complex, so diverse, but then I don't get it. Okay? And I think this is a very good exercise. And if you're going abroad, mostly what is happening is that you have to understand what others are doing, but you also have to be able to communicate to the other what you are doing. And this makes you a more clear mindset,
Yeah.
more focus, more understanding also what is your inner value. So my question is always, which are the assets of being in an Indian culture, and how can this emerge and be managed in a visible and a clear way? And I find sometimes some unclear answers. I think that being in a context in which you are exposed and you need, again, to understand, but also to report, to
Communicate.
explain, to communicate, helps bringing some kind of clarity and in what also you're doing daily. So it doesn't matter whether then your product is a product that has an Indian touch but is for a global market, or if it's an Indian touch for a local market. Simply, I think that if you're getting that mindset, you are able to communicate to others in a more, like, so to say, holistic context, then also your product, your solution will be much clearer, more clean, more to the point.
And any exposure is actually good.
Yeah.
I think that's more
Any
important.
change or any exposure.
It actually
makes
tells you how
think.
good you are, maybe.
It makes
I
you
can-
think also.
Point what he said is really important. Of the that whether it's a product with Indian
Yeah, the context is
context is important. For whom are you designing? Because
Yeah.
design is for specifics. It cannot be. There cannot be a design which is good for
Just in
everybody.
general, yeah.
There is nothing like that.
There's an interesting question from Ajit Bhagat. He asks, how do you know that you can become a designer? What are the attributes that an individual should possess in order to switch his or her career towards design? Maybe let both of you do that. How does one
I
know?
think one simple word is you should have passion. I think that is your main driver. I think that's what I believe in. You know, if you have the passion, then only you can actually get into any profession, not just design,
It's
but
the passion for
doing something with your own hands, thinking radically different. I think that's very important.
questioning
Questioning prior art.
yeah.
Why is it done this way? You know,
Status
why not
questioning
this?
status quo, that why are we doing it this
And
way?
being
Is there a better
inquisitive.
way?
The
being
touch and
curious.
feel, and I think it's very important there.
Do you want to
Going
add
in
something?
depth, I think.
In depth.
Yeah.
It's important. The passion is important. I think. What else is important?
See, passion is important in all
The
professions,
spark
but in
is-
design
Yeah.
is
Spark
that the
is
spark.
also important. That very often we see people who are ordinary people like us, but somewhere down the line you see a spark. Identifying that spark is really what an institution does, and to make it nurture and grow. So
Yeah.
do that.
So Ajit, I hope you got your answer. I think you need to be inquisitive, curious, challenge status
Absolutely.
quo, ask questions. You must ask questions that why do we do it this way? Can we do it in a better way? And also be passionate about everything you do and be willing to go in depth.
In
So
depth, yeah.
I think the designer is like
The long haul
a
is
magician
important.
and a god and everything put together. But what I've seen really is that if you have that interest and if you want to do something, it's a great field because you can get totally absorbed in what you're doing. You start questioning, critiquing yourself. I think that's
Yeah.
what amazing, that could I be doing something better? Why am I doing it in this particular way? Can I, with my own, make myself better and make my work better? So
One small thing I'd like to add really is that these design conferences which take place, I particularly am very keen to go to this conference in Pune, the
Pune Design Festival.
Pune PDF. Why am I so keen? Is essentially because I see about 70% of the people who are making presentations have been students of NID. They are doing such incredible work and so much more than what I have ever dreamt of doing. And it gives me such great pride that I always say, don't call me there because my neck starts paining just looking after these guys. It's so
Super.
beautiful.
Super.
So
Prerna Bagai is asking that she wants to know more about product and lifestyle design. Maybe the two of you can take it together. So at Pearl we have a course which is called Product and Lifestyle Design, and
Okay.
it covers broadly two verticals. One is in the area of accessories and smaller products, and the other is slightly more industrial in nature. So what is the future in these areas?
You want to take it first?
Okay, I can explain a bit how this is built.
About the course?
About the course, so
Okay.
that we can
Yeah.
maybe figure
Yeah.
out what is the span of the course. So the reason of having two pathways, one more towards industrial products and also maybe touching furniture or like products that have to be, so to say, to be produced in an industrial way, and the other to have some more, we call like soft products that not only because of the scale, but also because of the way in which people are approaching them. And in the middle, we have also some overall concept of thinking about what is the experience of people in relating with the products, both soft products and hard products, so to say. So we have one pathway that is permitting the student to focus more on one direction to the other, because this is what is happening outside in the market. In the market, we see that typically if you have a good product designer, you can touch different kind of scales, but for getting more in the industrial, you have also to be able to cope more, to collaborate with the engineers, like the example we were speaking before. In the other case, in the soft product is more the complexity typically in the production process is a little bit less, but it's very important to have a strong sensibility about aesthetics, how this is going to be inserted in a context, which are the current languages that are influencing the choice of people, and how these are also becomes also element of decoration or in a home setting. So again, these are the two elements that till now we have seen as that are also the requirement of the market. So we are trying to provide both spectrum without compromising one or the other.
Yeah. To me, I think what I feel is a lot of times lifestyle products people are willing to pay for more. You know, so their design takes a slight backseat because you can take the flexibility of creating something in a small batch production
You mean
kind of thing.
aesthetics takes the
No,
what
aesthetics
takes, how
is there
does
in
it take
both.
a back seat then?
The kind of materials used, you know.
All right.
To me, design is for mass production, whereas lifestyle products you can make 1,000, you know,
Okay.
or even just 100, for example. So you have the liberty to use different material, different processes, which is
experiment.
not
So that you
for
don't-
mass
that-
production.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not as risky as.
Whereas design means every penny saved is a profit, eventually.
Super. Here's a question from Nidhi. Hi, Nidhi. She's asking that after an undergraduate, should a student first gain industry exposure by working, or first do masters and then go out to work? Yeah.
I think it is purely based on each individual. There are certain people who like that break. I personally feel a break is good because you get more maturity. You're exposed to the market, and when you're doing your masters, you'll know what the market is going to demand. I personally believe a 2-year working gap and then doing your masters is better. But there are two school of thought. So certain people
Let's hear
like
it.
the continuity.
there are schools which make it a requirement that they can only apply for a master's after 2 years of
Oh,
professional work.
yeah, some of them.
Why? I think it's
Yeah.
essentially because it helps you focus on what you want to actually do. Because as an undergraduate, you want to do 25 things.
Yes.
And all 25 things may not be possible to do in a span of 2 years of master. You focus, so you know what direction you want to go, and then go into a profession. I think that's why 2 years is minimum I would recommend anyone.
To go out and work in the office.
Even if you want to start your own design office, I think it's very important to work with somebody for
First,
2 years.
yes.
Learn at somebody's expense. I think that's very important.
Okay, so here's a question from Gaurav Kumar. He says, is it better to work with a large company of design or better to work with a small design company?
See, in large company, you're not doing the
You want
entire
to say
product.
something? Huh? Sorry, say
In a
that?
large company, you do the basic concept, then somebody takes over for the
Yeah.
drawings and the manufacturing. In a small, for example, in a company
Are
like
you a
ours,
small company or a large company?
yeah, we're tiny, not even small. Okay.
Yes,
So what we
tiny.
do is, the same designer takes the product from concept till the manufacturing.
Wow.
So he takes the entire responsibility. So the learning is much better with a smaller company. It's like working in a big corporation or a small office. It's the same, it all depends on the individual's capacity. But in small offices, there's a lot of learning. Overall learning in a small office is better. That's what
I wanted to say more or
The
less
same
the same
thing.
indeed. When I had students that were in the past were competent enough, and they wanted to be exposed. Typically, they were complaining that if they went to work for a certain design studio, they were required only to make very skill-based activity, and they didn't learn to match the overall process. So the recommendation was always go work for a startup or go for a small company in which, again, you are very easily exposed to the entire process. But again, this depends on where you are in the maturity of your path.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, there's one more question that we'll take. This is from Linda Singh. She says, how does Pearl Academy help those students who want to be entrepreneurs? Can I?
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay,
Please do
so I'll start
Excellent.
that. Really, Linda, we have found that within the first 3 years, around 50% of our students want to either work as entrepreneurs in a business of their own or
As a
do
freelancer.
something as
That's
a
good
freelance
sign. That's a
designer.
good sign
Yes, absolutely.
for the profession.
So we have been watching this trend for some time. So from 2 years ago, every course has an entrepreneurship module in it. Students also have modules in professional development where they learn how to negotiate, understand a brief, work, conceptualize, and work that way with the industry. And we have set up incubation centers right now in our Delhi NCR and Jaipur campus. Mumbai is slated for later this year, where we provide a place, an office for the registered people to come and sit, access to the labs.
Oh,
So
that's good.
the
Excellent.
3D printer, the sewing machines,
Oh,
the
I'm
computers and everything, and financial and legal services on every Friday. The
Fabulous.
next phase, so this is what happened over the last 1 year. So then the next phase is to take on formal mentorship from the industry and then look at angel investors.
You should also look at somebody who will take people on for IP, for intellectual property. I
absolutely.
think that will be
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. So did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was the.
Okay, I'm going to start winding up because it's.
Please
You asked whether it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. It's our hour is finishing right now. So this has been really interesting.
I can tell you, Pearl has a lot of energy, and Pearlites all. So
Absolutely, no, we love it. This has been really interesting. Thank you everybody for coming in. There are many questions which haven't been answered, but we have our counselors who will answer them or possibly have been answering them while we're talking also on Facebook. Thank you everyone for coming. This is part of our series where we'd like to bring the best in the industry and give young people, their families and society at large access to the best in the industry, to ask questions. And I think that I'm seeing more and more in this digital world that this is a very open and happy way for us to interact and be able to get you across the world, as the question may be. Watch out for some more. As I said, all questions will be answered. I'd like to just thank you again, Vikas.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nandita.
Satish, and thank you, Claudio. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.